Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather to reflect on a phrase that evokes both wonder and reverence. She carried stars in her soul. At first glance, these words may seem poetic, even mystical. However, through the lens of Stoic philosophy, they convey profound wisdom about the nature of virtue, resilience, and inner strength. The Stoic philosophy places immense importance on cultivating inner strength and virtue, recognizing that these qualities are the true markers of a well-lived life. In this context, when we say that she carried stars in her soul, we are referring to a person who has dedicated herself to developing the very virtues that define the Stoic way of living: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues are like the stars that illuminate the mind, guiding it through the challenges and uncertainties of life and providing a steady source of strength amidst turmoil. The Stoics believed that external circumstances, whether they are favorable or unfavorable, are beyond our control. The only thing we have control over is our response to them. This idea is central to the Stoic understanding of virtue. Virtue, for the Stoics, is not about achieving external success or avoiding pain. It is about how we maintain our character and composure in the face of whatever happens. She carried stars in her soul speaks to this very principle, an individual who is unwavering in her commitment to live according to her highest values, regardless of the external events that might occur. It is not the fleeting pleasures or successes of life that define her. Rather, it is her inner disposition that remains constant. Virtue, in the Stoic sense, is deeply tied to the development of inner strength. This strength does not manifest as a rigid or unyielding exterior, but rather as a well-cultivated inner fortitude that allows a person to endure life's difficulties without being overwhelmed by them. For the Stoic, strength is not a matter of physical power, but of moral resilience. It is the ability to remain grounded in reason, to resist the pull of irrational emotions, and to maintain clarity of thought, even when life is at its most chaotic. Wisdom, the first of the Stoic virtues, is perhaps the most fundamental. It is through wisdom that we come to understand what is truly important in life. A wise person recognizes that external events, wealth, status, success, or failure, do not determine one's happiness or peace of mind. Instead, wisdom teaches us to value those things within our control: our thoughts, our actions, our responses. When we say that she carried stars in her soul, we refer to a person whose wisdom guides her through life. She understands that challenges are not obstacles, but opportunities for growth. In the same way that stars shine through the darkest nights, her wisdom shines in moments of difficulty, offering clarity and direction. Courage is another virtue that resides within the Stoic soul. It is not merely the absence of fear, but the ability to act in accordance with what is right, even in the face of fear. For the Stoic, courage is a quiet strength, a steady resolve to do what is just and right regardless of the outcome. She carried stars in her soul suggests a person who possesses this type of courage, not a brash or reckless courage, but a courage grounded in the knowledge of what is virtuous and the willingness to stand firm in it. Whether faced with personal loss, societal injustice, or the inevitable hardships of life, she meets these challenges with an inner resolve that reflects her commitment to virtue. Justice, too, is a key component of Stoic virtue. In the Stoic worldview, justice is not only about fairness in relation to others, but also about living in accordance with the natural order and contributing to the well-being of the community. The stars in her soul can also represent a deep sense of justice, not in the sense of seeking retribution or power, but in the pursuit of what is right and fair for all. Her sense of justice aligns her actions with the broader good, helping to create harmony and balance in her relationships and in society at large. Temperance, the final Stoic virtue, speaks to the mastery of one's desires and impulses. It is the ability to live a life of moderation, avoiding excess and focusing on what is necessary for a virtuous life. In Stoic terms, temperance is about cultivating the discipline to act according to reason rather than yielding to fleeting pleasures or comforts. To carry stars in her soul means she has mastered this virtue. She is not driven by impulsive desires, but is guided by a steady, disciplined approach to life. In conclusion, the phrase "she carried stars in her soul" encapsulates the Stoic ideal of living a life guided by inner strength and virtue. Through wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, she has forged an inner light that remains undimmed by the external circumstances of life. Her soul shines with the clarity of these virtues, offering both guidance and inspiration to those around her. To carry stars in the soul is to embody the very essence of Stoic philosophy, living a life not defined by what happens to us, but by how we choose to respond and live in accordance with the highest ideals. In Stoic philosophy, the power of choice is considered one of the most fundamental aspects of human existence. The Stoics believed that, while we may not have control over external events, we always have control over how we respond to them. This is where the true freedom of the human spirit lies, not in the ability to shape the world around us, but in the ability to shape our own thoughts, attitudes, and actions. When we speak of carrying stars in her soul, we refer to an individual who has embraced this principle fully, recognizing that the power of choice is the guiding force of her life. The Stoics understood that life is filled with both favorable and unfavorable circumstances. We all face moments of triumph and suffering, periods of peace and periods of chaos. However, Stoic wisdom teaches us that it is not these circumstances that define us, but rather our response to them. The power of choice enables us to rise above the external and to direct our lives toward virtue and inner peace, regardless of the challenges we face. When we say that she carries stars in her soul, we suggest that this person has learned to harness this power of choice, using it as a beacon that guides her through the darkness of adversity. A key aspect of the Stoic approach to life is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. In any given situation, we can control our thoughts, our judgments, and our actions, but we cannot control what others do, the weather, or even the flow of time. By focusing on what we can control, we gain the ability to remain grounded and composed in the face of whatever life throws at us. The stars in her soul symbolize the wisdom to discern this difference and the courage to choose how she responds. Instead of being buffeted by external forces, she remains centered and directed by her inner compass. The Stoics often referred to this concept as the dichotomy of control. This dichotomy suggests that we must train ourselves to focus only on the things that are within our power to influence. Everything else is outside our control and should not be a source of frustration or anxiety. This mindset allows for peace of mind because it frees us from the constant worry about things we cannot change. The stars in her soul represent the light of this understanding, a constant reminder that her true power lies in her ability to choose her responses, regardless of the situation. Choosing wisely, according to Stoicism, is not just about responding to life's difficulties with grace. It is also about living in accordance with virtue, regardless of the temptations or distractions that may arise. In the face of hardship, she does not allow herself to fall into despair or resentment. Instead, she chooses to embody patience, resilience, and inner calm. The power of choice for her is not a fleeting reaction, but a disciplined, intentional way of living. Each decision, from the small daily choices to the significant life-altering ones, is made with the knowledge that the path to wisdom and virtue is a deliberate one. When we choose to act in alignment with our highest values, we elevate our lives and the lives of those around us. To carry stars in her soul, then, is to choose not only personal growth and wisdom, but also to contribute to the greater good. The Stoic believes that we are all interconnected and that the choices we make ripple out into the world. Her decisions, guided by wisdom, integrity, and justice, have the power to inspire others and to bring light to places of darkness. The power of choice also relates to how we view our own suffering. Rather than seeing hardship as a burden or an injustice, the Stoics encourage us to reframe our perception of suffering as an opportunity for growth. She who carries stars in her soul understands that difficult times are not obstacles to be avoided, but chances to develop strength, patience, and understanding. She makes the choice to face adversity with resilience, using the experience as a means of strengthening her character and deepening her wisdom. In this way, the power of choice is not simply about choosing how we react to the world, but about actively shaping our lives according to our highest ideals. The stars in her soul represent the clarity and guidance she derives from the ability to make these choices. Her soul is illuminated by her understanding that true freedom lies not in controlling the external world, but in cultivating the inner strength to choose how to live in harmony with it. This is the essence of Stoic thought, that our power lies not in changing the world, but in changing how we respond to it, using our inner wisdom to guide our actions, no matter the circumstances. The Stoic philosophy teaches us the fundamental principle of amor fati asterisk, which translates to love of fate. This idea encapsulates the Stoic view that everything that happens in life, whether seemingly good or bad, is an integral part of the universe's order. Embracing this concept fully means accepting all aspects of life, triumphs, losses, joy, suffering, as necessary and meaningful. When we speak of carrying stars in her soul, we speak of a person who embodies this acceptance, who understands that her life is not simply a sequence of random events, but a continuous journey filled with purpose and meaning, regardless of external circumstances. In life, we often encounter moments of hardship, uncertainty, and suffering, which can be difficult to navigate. It is natural to desire comfort and to resist pain. However, the Stoic understanding of fate suggests that we should not see these challenges as obstacles or as punishments, but rather as opportunities for growth and wisdom. The person who carries stars in her soul has learned to embrace all parts of her experience with gratitude and acceptance. She does not fight against what is, nor does she wish for a different reality. Instead, she embraces each moment with the understanding that all experiences, whether light or dark, are part of the broader tapestry of life and contribute to her growth. The concept of amor fati asterisk encourages us to love the unfolding of life, not just the parts we deem pleasant or desirable. This does not mean passively resigning ourselves to suffering or injustice, but rather adopting a mindset that sees every challenge as an opportunity for learning and personal development. The stars in her soul reflect this attitude of acceptance, shining brightly through even the darkest times. She understands that life's difficulties, while painful, are not signs of failure or misfortune. They are invitations to grow in resilience, strength, and wisdom. When faced with hardship, The Stoic does not indulge in frustration or anger at the universe for what has occurred. Rather, she seeks to understand why this particular event has entered her life and what it can teach her. She might ask herself, what can I learn from this situation? How can this moment help me become a better person? In this way, every moment becomes an opportunity for self-improvement, a chance to practice the virtues of patience, endurance, and wisdom. The stars in her soul are symbols of this deeper understanding, shining brightly not in spite of adversity, but because of it. The acceptance of fate also involves understanding that we are part of a greater whole, a universal order that is beyond our control. Just as the stars in the night sky are part of an intricate and vast cosmic system, so too are our lives part of a larger, interconnected flow of events. She who carries stars in her soul recognizes that her life is not isolated or independent from the world around her. She is a thread in the fabric of existence, and while she cannot control the entire weave, she can control how she contributes to it. Her acceptance of fate allows her to live in harmony with the universe, trusting that each moment is precisely as it should be, even if it does not always align with her immediate desires or expectations. This Stoic acceptance is not passive resignation, but rather an active embracing of life as it comes, with all its complexities and uncertainties. To love fate is to understand that nothing in life is permanent. Both joy and sorrow are fleeting. By accepting that both good and bad experiences are inevitable parts of existence, she frees herself from unnecessary suffering caused by resistance to change. The stars in her soul represent this inner peace, a steady light that persists through both the bright and dark moments of life. Moreover, Amor Fati involves reframing our perception of setbacks and misfortunes. The Stoic does not see failure as something to be feared or avoided, but as a natural and necessary part of the human experience. When something doesn't go as planned, instead of lamenting the loss or feeling resentment, she sees it as an opportunity to reflect, adjust, and continue on her path with greater wisdom. The stars in her soul shine with the light of this wisdom, illuminating the path forward even when the road seems unclear. In essence, to carry stars in her soul means to live with an unshakable acceptance of fate. It is to embrace life as it is, with all its beauty and its challenges. The person who carries this kind of acceptance does not seek to control or fight against the world, but to live in harmony with it, trusting that every experience is a part of the greater unfolding of life. Through this lens, every moment becomes an opportunity to practice resilience, learn from adversity, and grow in wisdom. The stars she carries are symbols of this profound understanding, guiding her through life with clarity, peace, and unwavering resolve. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the belief in living in harmony with nature, which refers not only to the natural world around us, but also to the natural order that governs human existence and the cosmos as a whole. To the Stoics, nature is an intricate and balanced system, and human beings are part of this larger framework. The Stoics believe that living according to nature means aligning oneself with this cosmic order, understanding our place within it, and acting in accordance with reason and virtue. When we say that she carried stars in her soul, we refer to someone who has attained this level of understanding, someone whose life is guided by the wisdom and clarity that comes from being deeply attuned to the natural flow of existence. The stars in her soul symbolize not only an inner light of wisdom, but also her deep connection to the greater world around her. By aligning her actions with nature, she understands that everything in life, including herself, is interconnected. The Stoics viewed the universe as a rational and purposeful whole, governed by a divine reason, or asterisk logos asterisk. This divine reason flows through everything, from the stars in the sky to the smallest particles of the earth, and to live in accordance with nature is to live in accordance with this universal rationality. She who carries stars in her soul recognizes that her actions, thoughts, and decisions are part of this larger cosmic order. Her inner harmony is achieved by living a life that respects this interconnectedness, knowing that her personal well-being is tied to the well-being of the world as a whole. Living in accordance with nature also means accepting the impermanence of life. The Stoics taught that everything in nature is subject to change. Seasons change, rivers flow and erode, plants grow and wither, and human lives follow the same pattern of birth, growth, decline, and death. By accepting the transient nature of life, we learn not to become overly attached to any particular moment or condition. For the Stoic, attachment to things that are fleeting leads to unnecessary suffering, as we inevitably face loss. The person who carries stars in her soul, however, understands this cyclical nature of life and embraces it. She does not resist the inevitable changes but accepts them with grace, knowing that each phase of life has its purpose, just as the stars in the night sky follow their own eternal patterns, rising and setting in perfect harmony. Moreover, living in harmony with nature involves cultivating self-awareness and self-control. The Stoics believed that human beings, like the rest of nature, are governed by reason. To live in harmony with nature is to live rationally, to make decisions based on thoughtful reflection rather than impulsive desires or irrational emotions. She who carries stars in her soul exercises self-control and discipline, understanding that the true path to peace lies not in yielding to every passing whim, but in aligning her actions with reason and virtue. This inner discipline allows her to live with clarity and purpose, unaffected by the chaos that may surround her. In this way, she serves as an example of how living in alignment with nature leads to a more fulfilled and purposeful life. In addition, the Stoics believed that by living in accordance with nature, we contribute to the greater good of humanity. The universe, according to Stoic thought, is a community where all things work together for the greater harmony of existence. As rational beings, human beings have a responsibility to contribute positively to this cosmic order. This idea is central to the Stoic understanding of justice. Justice is not just about fairness in human relationships, but also about acting in harmony with the natural order. She, who carries stars in her soul, recognizes that her actions affect not only her own well-being, but also the well-being of others. By living virtuously, she contributes to the greater harmony of the world, helping to create a society where people are guided by reason and justice, just as the stars in the sky follow a predictable and orderly pattern. The stars in her soul are thus a reflection of her deep connection to the cosmos. They represent not only the light of wisdom and virtue, but also her understanding of the natural order of life. By embracing this understanding, she lives in a way that is aligned with both the greater universe and her own true nature as a rational and virtuous being. Her actions, thoughts, and decisions are a testament to the harmony she shares with the world, and in carrying these stars, she illuminates the path for others to follow. In a world full of uncertainty and chaos, she stands as a beacon of stability, demonstrating how living in accordance with nature leads to a life of peace, purpose, and fulfillment. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the practice of self-control, which emphasizes the importance of mastering one's emotions, desires, and impulses. The Stoics believed that external events could never truly disturb the peace of a wise and virtuous person, as long as they maintained control over their internal state. Emotions, for the Stoics, are not inherently negative, but when left unchecked, they can lead us away from virtue and rational thought. To live a Stoic life is to cultivate the strength to respond to life's challenges with calmness, clarity, and reason. When we say that she carried stars in her soul, we speak of someone who has mastered this inner discipline, someone who, through self-control, has cultivated the ability to remain steadfast and composed no matter what external circumstances arise. Self-control, in Stoic terms, is not simply about suppressing or ignoring one's emotions. It is about developing the ability to choose how to respond to those emotions, rather than being controlled by them. The Stoics acknowledge that emotions such as anger, fear, jealousy, or even excessive joy are natural reactions to events in our lives. However, they taught that these emotions should not govern our actions. The person who carries stars in her soul understands that while emotions are natural, it is not the emotion itself that determines her happiness or peace, but how she chooses to act in response to it. By cultivating the inner strength to pause, reflect, and act with reason, she ensures that her decisions are guided by wisdom, not by transient emotional states. In this sense, self-control is closely linked to the Stoic practice of mindfulness and awareness. To control one's emotions is to be deeply aware of them and their influence. She, who carries stars in her soul, practices self-reflection, constantly examining her thoughts and emotions to ensure that they align with her values and the greater good. This level of self-awareness allows her to recognize when her emotions are getting in the way of rational decision-making, enabling her to choose a more thoughtful and deliberate response. Through this practice, she gains the ability to remain calm in the face of chaos, to think clearly in moments of distress, and to maintain her sense of integrity when confronted with temptations or distractions. Self-control also involves the ability to regulate one's desires. The Stoics taught that human beings are often led astray by excessive desires, whether for wealth, fame, power, or pleasure. These desires, though natural, can cause suffering when they become the driving forces in our lives. The person who carries stars in her soul has learned to master these desires, recognizing that true happiness and peace come not from external possessions or achievements, but from living a life of virtue. She understands that the pursuit of material goods or fleeting pleasures will never lead to lasting fulfillment. Instead, she focuses on cultivating her inner character and aligning her actions with what is truly important: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. In doing so, she is able to remain steadfast even when the world around her is filled with distractions that tempt her to deviate from her path. In the Stoic view, self-control is not just about resisting external temptations, but also about mastering the internal struggle that arises from our own passions and instincts. The stars in her soul symbolize the clarity and wisdom she has gained through this process of self-mastery. Just as stars shine with an unwavering light, she remains calm and steady, unaffected by the fluctuating emotions and desires that might otherwise sway her from her course. She has developed the discipline to act according to reason, not passion, and to align her actions with her highest ideals. Moreover, self-control also plays a vital role in maintaining inner peace and tranquility. The Stoics believed that peace of mind comes from within, and that it is only through controlling our internal states that we can achieve lasting happiness. The person who carries stars in her soul is not disturbed by the ups and downs of fortune, as she understands that her peace is not dependent on external events. Whether she faces success or failure joy or sorrow, she remains anchored in her inner virtues, confident that her worth is not determined by what happens to her, but by how she chooses to respond. In this way, self-control becomes the key to emotional resilience, allowing her to face life's challenges with an unshakable sense of calm and purpose. In conclusion, to carry stars in her soul is to have cultivated the inner strength and self-discipline to live according to reason and virtue, regardless of external circumstances. Through self-control, she maintains her emotional equilibrium, responds to life's challenges with wisdom, and keeps her desires in check. The stars in her soul shine brightly, not because she is unaffected by the world around her, but because she has chosen to align herself with the eternal light of reason and virtue, guiding her actions with clarity and steadfastness. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the pursuit of virtue and the constant striving for moral excellence, regardless of external circumstances. For the Stoic, virtue is not a temporary goal to be achieved, but rather a way of life, a continuous process of growth and self-improvement. The Stoic virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, form the foundation of a well-lived life, and it is through the cultivation of these virtues that one finds true peace and fulfillment. To say that she carried stars in her soul is to speak of an individual who has fully embraced this ideal, whose life is guided by a deep commitment to living virtuously, regardless of the difficulties or temptations she may face. In the Stoic world, virtue is not something that is bestowed upon a person through external rewards or recognition. Instead, it is cultivated through conscious effort, self-reflection, and deliberate action. The person who carries stars in her soul has dedicated herself to this pursuit, recognizing that true excellence lies in the alignment of her actions with her highest values, rather than in seeking fame, wealth, or external success. She understands that the path to true fulfillment is not found in external circumstances, but in the cultivation of her own character and the consistent application of virtue in all aspects of her life. Virtue, for the Stoics, is inseparable from wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to see things clearly, to understand the nature of the world, and to make decisions based on reason rather than emotion or impulse. The person who carries stars in her soul has developed this wisdom not as a passive trait, but as an active guide to her thoughts, actions, and decisions. She has learned to approach life with clarity and discernment, understanding that wisdom is not about knowing everything, but about knowing what truly matters and making choices that align with her higher self. Her wisdom allows her to navigate life's challenges with grace, seeing beyond the surface and recognizing the deeper truths that underlie every situation. Courage is another key virtue that guides the person who carries stars in her soul. Courage for the Stoics is not about fearlessness, but about the ability to act rightly despite fear or adversity. It is the strength to do what is just, even when the outcome is uncertain or when personal sacrifices are required. The Stoic who carries stars in her soul does not shy away from difficult situations or uncomfortable truths. Instead, she faces them head on, guided by her sense of what is right and virtuous. Whether she is confronting personal challenges, societal injustices, or moral dilemmas, her courage remains unwavering, for she knows that true strength lies in standing firm for what is just and virtuous, regardless of the cost. Justice, too, plays a central role in the life of the Stoic who carries stars in her soul. In Stoic philosophy, justice is not merely about adhering to legal or societal rules, but about acting in harmony with the natural law and ensuring the well-being of others. The person who carries stars in her soul understands that her actions have an impact on the world around her, and she seeks to contribute to the greater good by living justly and fairly. She recognizes the interconnectedness of all human beings and strives to act with compassion, integrity, and respect for others. Her sense of justice is not bound by personal gain or self-interest, but is rooted in a deep commitment to fairness and the moral welfare of all. Temperance, the final Stoic virtue, is equally important in the life of the person who carries stars in her soul. Temperance is the practice of moderation, the ability to restrain one's desires and impulses in order to live in accordance with reason. The Stoic who embodies temperance does not allow her passions or desires to control her actions. Instead, she exercises self-discipline, choosing what is truly necessary for her well-being and avoiding excess or indulgence. Her temperance is a reflection of her inner strength, as she is able to maintain balance and harmony in her life, even in the face of temptation or external pressures. In the end, the person who carries stars in her soul is not one who seeks to avoid challenges or difficulties, but one who approaches life with the unwavering resolve to live virtuously, regardless of the circumstances. The stars in her soul symbolize the light of her virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance that guide her through life's dark and uncertain moments. These virtues are not abstract ideals, but practical tools that shape her character and influence her actions in every situation. She understands that true happiness and fulfillment are not found in external accomplishments or material possessions, but in the cultivation of an inner life that is aligned with the highest moral ideals. Through this pursuit of virtue, she illuminates the world around her, serving as a beacon of integrity, strength, and wisdom for others to follow. In conclusion, to say she carried stars in her soul is to describe an individual whose life is guided by the highest principles of Stoic philosophy. She has learned to master the power of choice, responding to life's challenges with wisdom and resilience. Her acceptance of fate is not one of passivity, but of active embrace, recognizing that every experience, whether joyful or painful, contributes to her growth. She lives in harmony with nature, understanding that she is a part of the greater cosmic order, and aligns her actions with the virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Through self-control, she remains steady and calm, unaffected by the fluctuating circumstances of life. Her emotional and intellectual discipline allows her to navigate the storms of life with unwavering clarity, responding not out of impulse, but with reason and virtue. The stars she carries within symbolize the inner light that shines brightly through the darkness, guiding her on the path of wisdom and moral excellence. In the end, the Stoic woman who carries stars in her soul is not one who avoids difficulty, but one who embraces it with grace and fortitude. She understands that true peace and fulfillment lie not in external circumstances, but in living virtuously in accordance with nature and in harmony with the divine order. Her journey is not just about personal growth, but about contributing to the greater good, inspiring others to live with integrity and purpose. She is a beacon of strength and wisdom, a testament to the power of Stoic philosophy to illuminate even the darkest moments of life.